standing at 5'3", with bleach blonde hair and dazzling green eyes. 26-year-old Tiffany Whitton was the epitome of the all-American girl. In her younger years, Tiffany was a cheerleader at her high school in Kennesaw, Georgia, spending much of her time preening her blonde hair and working on her golden tan. Her ambitions of becoming a veterinarian were cut short when she was just 16, and from that point, her life changed forever. Tiffany's 20s were a turbulent time, marred by bad relationships and drug addiction. In 2013, Tiffany's life took another turn, forcing her down a dark path of destruction, heartaches, and the enduring hunt for the truth. Born in 1987 in Kennesaw, Georgia, to Lisa Daniels, Tiffany Whitton was different from the start. Behind the cheeky smile was a girl who was capable of greatness, but also plagued with bad thoughts. Tiffany's stealing habits started at the age of 2 and followed her into her childhood and teenage years. Tiffany graduated through the school system and seemed to fit in well at high school. She became a cheerleader and was in a popular circle of friends. She was bright, enthusiastic, and wanted to help animals by becoming a vet. When Tiffany was 16, her world changed entirely. She discovered that she was pregnant. Tiffany, her mother Lisa, and her grandmother, Anita Boyette, who was heavily involved in Tiffany's life, made the decision to place the baby up for adoption. Lisa and Anita hoped that this would allow for Tiffany to live out her teenage years and go on to study animal medicine at college. In 2008, Tiffany discovered that she was expecting again, dashing her hopes once more. That year, she gave birth to her second daughter, Addison, who Lisa describes as, quote, the splitting image of her mother in both looks and demeanor. Addison was entrusted into the care of Lisa once it became clear that Tiffany was not ready for motherhood. The teenage rebellion had cemented itself in Tiffany's brain. What followed was a string of bad relationships and friendships, all of which led Tiffany down an ever-darkening path. Tiffany would spend her days and nights in Kennesaw, Marietta, and Powder Springs. Powder Springs was described as an area with, quote, a rotating cast of heavy drug users. Methamphetamine and heroin use was rife within these communities, and Tiffany began to experiment. She quickly became hooked on Oxycontin, a drug that has claimed endless lives over the past decade. Addiction took over Tiffany's life, and her priorities shifted. The mention of Tiffany's substance abuse and addiction struggles is not to point out that she is somehow a bad person or less deserving of justice. Addiction can take hold of anyone at any point, but addiction does play a large part in Tiffany's story. Her life now revolved around getting fast money and more prescription pills. On March 7, 2011, Tiffany and another woman broke into the home of Tracy Chambers to retrieve money that Tiffany believed was stolen from her. Their raid garnered them just $60, which Tiffany insisted had been stolen from her first, and therefore was rightfully hers. The police did not see it that way, and charged Tiffany and another woman with armed robbery. According to legal data, armed robbery is a felony crime and can carry a sentence of up to 20 years. As this was her first offense, Tiffany was punished lightly, by the courts at least. Lisa Daniels, on the other hand, had a different route in mind. She stared into her daughter's eyes and gave her an ultimatum. She could either continue living her life as she was or straighten up her act. Lisa told Tiffany if she ever wanted to see Addison again, she would need to complete her sentence and go to rehab. Once she proved she was clean and could stay clean, only then could she see Addison. This was enough to shake Tiffany from her destructive lifestyle. She promised her mother that she would complete her sentence and check herself into rehab, which is exactly what she did. After completing her sentence, Tiffany walked into a rehab center and overcame the first hurdle for someone battling addiction, admitting that they have a problem and that they need help. For the first month, everything was perfect. Tiffany complied with the program, and it seemed that there was some promise. She called her mother and spoke with her daughter, which gave her the motivation needed to carry on. But then something changed. Just after a month at the rehab facility, Tiffany left. Lisa and Anita were devastated. Back in Kennesaw, Tiffany tried to write a new chapter in her life. Lisa and Anita were impressed that Tiffany moved into an apartment with a roommate, Sheila Fuller, and got a job at the local IHOP, where Sheila also worked. What they didn't know was that Tiffany had secretly started using again. At first, Tiffany was able to balance the two lives she had created. But then, things began to slip. Her roommate eventually kicked her out, and Tiffany lost her job at IHOP for stealing from the till. Just as things were beginning to spiral for Tiffany, Ashley "Red" Caudle came into her life. Anita met Red, who got his nickname from his red beard, for the first time in August of 2013, and she was not impressed. She described him as clean-shaven, with tattoos and, quote, a face in apparent anger and contorted in apparent threat. His teeth were methamphetamine brown, and he appeared wiry. The pair had first met when Tiffany was most down on her luck. Red welcomed her with open arms, and it didn't take long for the two to become an item. The pair moved into Powder Springs, which we noted earlier was an area rife with drug abuse and violence. Tiffany began to slip further into addiction and a bad relationship. Likewise, Lisa was unhappy with Tiffany's new boyfriend, but was powerless to stop her. In August of 2013, Lisa cut off all contact with Tiffany to shield her granddaughter from heartache and disappointment. Lisa commented to Esquire that she didn't want to make the same mistakes that she did with Tiffany and wanted to provide to the little girl, who reminds her so much of her all-American girl with a stable and happy upbringing. Everyone around Tiffany knew the relationship was unstable. Neighbors in Powder Springs reported explosive arguments in the wee hours of the morning, only to hear the two reconcile hours later, promising to never argue again. She began neglecting her duties as a mother, instead spending all of her time with Red and his friends getting high. Tiffany and Red were joined at the hip, which makes her bizarre disappearance all the more confusing. September 8th, 2013, 5 days before Tiffany disappeared, Anita received a text from Tiffany asking where she was. Tiffany and Ashley had no food and wanted to ride somewhere. Anita, whom Tiffany lovingly referred to as Meemaw, obliged. Anita took Tiffany, Red, and Red's daughter Charlie to McDonald's to fill their bellies. During this final meeting, Anita could sense just how dire her granddaughter's situation really was. Tiffany also asked if Anita could wash some of their clothes. When Anita asked how many items, Tiffany replied, quote, everything we own. Tiffany and Red either didn't have a washing machine or had just never used it. Their time was spent getting money, getting drugs, and planning ways to score. Anita wanted better for her granddaughter, who she knew was capable and deserving of better. She remembers her granddaughter as a shining light who wanted to be a veterinarian, not as a missing woman who the media has long forgotten. On the evening of September 12th, 2013, Tiffany and Red spent the night at their Powder Springs home with two friends, Stephen Weinstein and Jason Zuccarini. As per their routine, the group got high, sat around the house and watched TV. According to some reports, Tiffany had started using heroin too, and those around her often saw needle marks on her arm. Once the buzz wore off, the group used again, relaxing into the late hours of September 13th, 2013. Minutes after midnight, Tiffany and Red had a bright idea. They wanted to visit the 24/7 Walmart in Marietta, just 12 miles away. Weinstein and Zuccarini declined the offer, so Tiffany and Red hopped into his truck and drove away. Around 1 a.m., CCTV cameras from Walmart show the pair entering, grabbing a large cart upon entry. Under the influence of their drugs of choice, the pair surfed the aisles, piling the cart high as if they had a money tree in their garden. Tiffany stroked the fabric of dresses and tops, putting them into the cart. She also browsed children's and men's clothes, looking for cute outfits for Addison. Upon reviewing the CCTV footage, investigators immediately noted the pair's bizarre behavior. Tiffany dances around the aisles, constantly moving from one item to another in a drug-fueled daze. Red is similarly buzzed, following behind Tiffany, looking as if he's incapable of standing still. Tom Junod, who authored the Esquire article, which delves into Tiffany's case in extreme detail, made the following chilling observation. She throws shirt after shirt and outfit after outfit into the cart and behaves so suspiciously that to see the tapes is to wonder if she's trying to get caught and if she's trying to get caught in order to escape. The CCTV footage of Tiffany's last movements is chilling to watch, knowing that in just a few minutes she will be gone. After spending an hour running around the aisles, Red told Tiffany that he wanted to leave, but Tiffany was far from finished. According to Red, a small argument broke out between the two, and he momentarily headed out to his truck to, quote, charge his phone. Minutes later, he heads back inside to tell Tiffany, rather sternly, that it was time to leave. Just after 2 a.m., CCTV footage shows Red using the self-service checkouts to buy a few items. Meanwhile, Tiffany is desperately trying to shove things into her purse. Unbeknownst to them, they were being watched the entire time by Walmart's loss prevention officers. As Tiffany calmly approaches the exit, she is swarmed by two men. They informed her that they knew that she was stealing, and that's when Tiffany began to panic. According to Red, as this was all going down, he was on his phone and not paying attention to his girlfriend, who was now screaming at the two officers. Tiffany cried out for her boyfriend several times, but he simply ignored her. It was only when she shouted out Ashley that he snapped out of it and ran over to her, saying the following. Then she said my name, Ashley, and I turned around and looked, and they got her by both arms. And another dude has got her purse, and there's 3 guys. So I pulled a knife out. They didn't see it. I had it by my side. Tiffany's verbal outbreak had forced the officers to manhandle her, grabbing her on both sides. In the footage, Tiffany is determined to break free of their grip, while Red watches on silently with his knife in hand. A split-second decision would change the course of Tiffany's life forever. A few seconds on a clock, a moment of time, a moment that Lisa and Nita and the Marietta Police Department would play over in their heads forever. As Tiffany wrestled with the officers, she was formulating a plan. Tiffany could have easily given up and admitted to her wrongdoings, but instead, she did something shocking. Tiffany kicked off her flip-flops, maneuvered out of the strap for a handbag, and took off running barefoot into the night. She ran through the Walmart parking lot and into the darkness of Marietta. Realizing what had just happened, Red's first instinct was to get into his truck to drive after Tiffany, but he didn't. Instead, he took off on foot, just like Tiffany did, running across Highway 41. In 2013, the Marietta Walmart was surrounded by a small strip mall, a Krispy Kreme, a motel, and an IHOP, also open 24/7. None of the cameras from any of these establishments showed Tiffany that night. So, where did she go? Red admitted to investigators that he didn't get into his truck because there were drugs inside, and he was afraid of getting caught. Tiffany ran somewhere, but to this day, nobody knows where, not even Red, allegedly. For the next few weeks, Red apparently spent his time calling Tiffany's friends, hospitals, and rehabs, hoping to find any sign of her, but she was gone. Red carried on with his life as if nothing had happened. In November of 2013, 2 months after Tiffany darted out of the Marietta Walmart, Anita received a bizarre letter. The letter was from a Florida lawyer representing the Walmart Corporation who was threatening Tiffany with a civil suit. In the letter, the lawyer advised that on the night of September 13th, 2013, 26-year-old Tiffany Whitton had attempted to steal a $15 t-shirt. Tiffany had 2 options. She could pay $150 in restitution to settle the matter immediately, or she could skip the fine and wait for the matter to go to court. The letter was disconcerting for Anita. She hadn't heard from Tiffany in over 2 months, and now a lawsuit was being brought up against her. Anita commented that the absences were not uncommon for Tiffany, but this serious matter gave her a terrible feeling in her stomach. Anita tried to call her granddaughter, but there was no reply. Her phone went through to voicemail, and there were no returned calls. Tiffany hadn't been active on social media either. something that was extremely unusual. Unable to get a hold of Tiffany, Anita bit the bullet and made a call to Red. Within the first few seconds of the phone call, Anita's worst fears were confirmed. Red told Anita that he hadn't seen Tiffany since September 13th, explaining that she had taken off running. Naturally, Anita was filled with both fury and worry. She demanded to know why she hadn't been informed sooner. But Red didn't share her worries. Instead, he was far more concerned with Tiffany's handbag, a Coach handbag which he had bought for her. Anita recalled during the phone call that Red coolly said, quote, "I wish I had that purse I bought her. It was a Coach purse, and it was really expensive." Tiffany's family chose not to file a police report in November of 2013 after learning she was gone, a decision that has been harshly criticized by some. Regardless of these opinions, Tiffany's family went to concerted efforts to find her. They knew that each year, around Thanksgiving and Christmas, Tiffany would turn up, bearing gifts for Addison, adorned with little bows to complete the presents. Thanksgiving 2013 passed with an empty seat around the table and a plate unfilled. Similarly, Christmas 2013 passed with no presents for little Addison from Mommy. Lisa and Anita did their best to try and explain the situation to Addison, but maintained that her mother would be back soon. In their minds, Tiffany was gone. There was no hope. But for the sake of Addison, they persisted. Red continued his life in Powder Springs, spending the holidays with his family, a privilege some are not afforded. It was later revealed that before Red told Tiffany's family that she was missing, he had admitted to his parole officer that he hadn't seen his girlfriend for, quote, some time. Those around him described him as a POS, and he wasn't held in high regard. New Year bells rang out on January 1st, 2014, bringing with them the promise of a new start and new beginnings. 9 days later, Lisa Daniels arrived at the Marietta Police Department to report her daughter, 26-year-old Tiffany Whitton, missing. The detective assigned to Tiffany's case begrudgingly took the report at Lisa's insistence. And then there was radio silence. There were no searches, no appeals, no posters, and no regard for a missing addict. The detective even callously remarked that Tiffany was, quote, a junkie, binging, or a parole violator on the run, and that she would either show up or get herself arrested before long. This attitude is one that is unfortunately carried out by many police departments. There are sectors of society that are viewed as lesser than, especially when it comes to the police. Investigating a missing addict was simply a waste of their time. She was a lost cause in their eyes, but to Lisa, she was her little girl, with blonde hair and a tan, beaming with ambition and hope. Lisa and Anita pushed the Marietta Police Department, calling them every day to demand updates. Thanks to their efforts, Tiffany's case was finally handed over to Detective Joni Miller, a woman who cared and wanted justice for Tiffany just as much as her family did. Lisa and Anita recalled Tiffany's final moments, as much as they knew at least, in fine detail. When Anita mentioned the letter she'd received from Walmart, a light bulb appeared above Detective Muller's head. She knew that Walmart would have CCTV footage from that night. So finally, on January 27, 2014, Detective Mueller obtained the footage to uncover what really happened that night. This was the first time that the footage had ever been viewed by eyes outside of Walmart. Upon viewing the footage and interviewing Red, Detective Mueller stated that she felt Red was somehow involved. But without a body or evidence, she was powerless to act. The footage alone was not enough to prove where Tiffany had run, and the case began to dwindle. Posters, flyers, and social media posts were circulated, and Lisa received a few tips here and there, but nothing substantial. Days had now passed since Detective Mueller first saw the footage of Tiffany's last moments. No matter how often she froze the frame or tried to manipulate the footage to get a better angle, nothing new jumped out. Lisa and Anita were similarly working just as hard as the detective, and thanks to their diligence, they had unknowingly uncovered a final witness. Her name was Sheila Fuller. I had gone to Walmart to get some cigarettes. I had seen Red's truck in the parking lot, I called him Red. Now I came back to the IHOP, and Red's sitting on the bench outside. He said, "Have you seen Tiffany?" I said, "Why should I have seen Tiffany? I'm the last person that Tiffany would want to see." He said, "She got caught shoplifting in the Walmart and ran away. I don't know where she is." He pulled her cell phone out of his pocket and said, "I'm charging it. I'm looking for her." Then I said, "Then what are you doing here sitting in an IHOP?" He said his friends were going to come get him. It took an hour and a half. Then an SUV pulled up with a guy driving and two girls inside. Red got into the back seat with one of the girls and they drove off. The deeper we dig into Tiffany's story, the more apparent that it becomes that there are many differing versions of what happened to her that night. Sheila Fuller alleges that Stephen Weinstein was the one driving the truck that collected Red the night that Tiffany disappeared. Stephen Weinstein told the Marietta police that he, Red, and Jason spent the night driving around looking for Tiffany. Sheila Fuller disagrees with this statement, telling the police that she did not see Jason that night in the truck. Everyone in this story has their own version of the truth, and the real truth lies somewhere in the middle. On March 13th, 2014, the Powder Springs home that Red and Tiffany shared was searched as part of her missing persons investigation. Authorities also brought cadaver dogs to the property and excavated large portions of the yard. Unfortunately, neither search was successful. Searches of the land around the Marietta Walmart were also conducted. But due to the time that had elapsed since Tiffany was last seen, these searches proved fruitless. Time is of the essence when a person disappears, but in Tiffany's case, time is not on her side. Detective Moel, along with many others, believe that Ashley Caudle is somehow involved in Tiffany's disappearance. During the March 2014 search executed on Red's property, investigators found some interesting items. According to the Georgia Department of Corrections, Red picked up several charges as a result of the search. A quick search of inmate records shows Red's extensive criminal history, dating all the way back to 2003, when he was first charged with theft by taking. In March of 2014, Red was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of methamphetamine, and possession with intent to distribute methamphetamine. The wheels of the justice system are slow to turn, and it wasn't until 2015 or 2016 that Red faced sentencing by Cobb County and Cherokee County. For his crimes, Red was given 24 years in prison. According to the Georgia Department of Corrections, Red is eligible for release as soon as September 9th, 2024, a date that is fast approaching. During his time in various prisons and jails, he has been transferred to quite a few. Red has made some controversial and shocking statements. During one call to a female visitor, he said, quote, "You're going to like this. I'm going to show you this piece of paper that girl brought to me. The detective lady, Detective Moeller. You'll like this." As he laughs, he states, "That's Tiffany's missing persons report. They think that I killed her for real." According to records, Red shows grandiose emotions, but not those of sorrow, but of joy. He laughs during the entire call, a statement Detective Moeller believes is meant to mock her. Red and Weinstein were both behind bars at the time of the Esquire article, but neither have given up any information on Tiffany's whereabouts. In September of 2015, a new tip came into the Cobb County Prosecutor's Office of a big-time trafficker operating in the area in 2013. This trafficker had recently been prosecuted, and during his interview, he made a shocking confession. The man, who remains unnamed, alleges that in late 2013, Red and his friends drove to Lake Alatona, just 20 miles from Marietta and 30 miles from Powder Springs. Red and his friends are alleged to have thrown a concrete-filled barrel into the waters from Bethany Bridge. While this tip may have been brushed off, the man divulged an important detail. He stated that the men had caused damage to Bethany Bridge, and when Detective Moeller arrived, she found the damage as he described. This new tip spurred the Marietta Police Department to deploy sonar equipment with the help of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. On September 25, 2015, divers were deployed into Lake Alatona as the sonar had picked up a large object submerged 40 feet below. The divers entered the frigid waters as Detective Moeller, Lisa, and Anita watched on. Lisa and Anita braced themselves for what might be uncovered. Could their all-American girl be stuffed inside of a barrel filled with concrete? Unfortunately, September 25th would not be the day for answers. Divers quickly discovered the object was a piece of concrete that had fallen off of Bethany Bridge. By January of 2016, Detective Mueller had done everything she could to help Tiffany. A piece of her was left behind with the case. She had given so much of herself, and it proved hard to let go. Tiffany's case has been handed over to the Cobb County Cold Case Unit, who continue to search for her. There are a plethora of theories in Tiffany's case. Some believe that Ashley Caudle knows more than he's telling. His behavior in the immediate days of her disappearance is alarming, but does not indicate guilt. With the finger being pointed directly at Red, some have accused the Marietta Police Department of developing tunnel vision due to Red's questionable past. Another theory is that Tiffany purposely got caught in order to escape the grasp of Red. While this theory may hold little weight, there is one last bizarre clue in Tiffany's tale. Blake Whitton, Tiffany's half-brother, came forward in January of 2015, claiming that he had received a call from his sister. Blake claims that on or around January 5th, 2014, he received a call from, quote, one of those calling apps with a weird return number. In the call, Tiffany addressed him as Mudbug, her nickname for him. She apologized for calling late and wished him a happy birthday. There is major doubt surrounding this call, and so far, no call records have come to light to prove it. If Tiffany voluntarily ran away, where did she go, and how is she surviving? Why would she leave behind her daughter, mother, and grandmother, who were integral parts of her life? If she is no longer with us, where is her body, and who is responsible for her disappearance? The area behind the Marietta Walmart has been described as a, quote, vast and expansive wasteland with woodland and brush, making it easy for someone to become stuck or lost and succumb to the elements. Searches of this area have been conducted, but so far, no human remains have been uncovered. Sadly, these are all questions in the missing chapter of Tiffany's life that will remain unanswered until new evidence comes to light. So as we close this book and prepare for the next one, what do you think happened to Tiffany Whitton? I'm your host, Bob Hicks, and I'll see you in our next video.